So we've talked a whole lot here on the channel about Donald Trump's ego and just how fragile it truly is. We've talked about how his rallies are doom and gloom, and we've also talked about how that his rallies are very much like a WWE event, and that he's bringing that old school wrestling villain to his events and working the crowd in the same way that the old school WWE guys used to work the crowds back in the day. This next clip I'm about to show you, to me, just makes all of those points in one clip, because here he is talking about the Howard Stern interview with Kamala Harris, which, by the way, I haven't watched in its entirety yet. When I get done watching it, I watched the first maybe 10 minutes of it. When I get done watching the whole thing, I'll probably do a review of the whole episode. But I felt like that this clip here of Trump talking about it when he caught wind that Kamala went on Howard Stern, his old buddy, by the way, well, he just couldn't take it. His ego couldn't take it, and he absolutely worked the crowd just like it was the WWE. So we're going to take a look at this clip of Trump, who now can't stand Howard Stern, and then we're going to talk more about the way that him and his followers think. Take a look.
You know, these guys are so bad. A big part of our problem in this country are those people right back there. Big part of our problem. We need a free and fair press badly, desperately. I watched the way they asked questions of Kamala yesterday. Howard Stern, he's a weak guy. He's weak. He's going, what about, It was so ridiculous. Even she was embarrassed. It was like softball. But all of them. Howard, I knew him very well. I was on the show many times. I used to think he was good. Then I dropped him. And I dropped him like a dog. And his ratings are very challenged. Very challenged. But
So first of all, yes, Donald Trump has been on the Howard Stern show quite a bit, and they would sit around and talk about what a piece of ass Ivanka is, and they would talk about how that Donald Trump likes his women on the younger side. And if you ever want to get a real dose of that, just go look it up, Donald Trump on the Howard Stern show, and all the stuff they used to sit around and joke about. If you'd have told me back then, because I used to watch Stern back in the day, back when he used to come on the E! Channel, those late night episodes. I was a teenager back then watching those and had a crude sense of humor. And so, I would watch those clips, and I remember seeing Trump on there. And if you'd have told me back then that one day the evangelicals would embrace that, I'd say there's no way in the world those people will ever go for that. But here we are. And yeah, he used to go on that show all the time. But now his ego is so fragile that Kamala Harris goes on Stern's show, and now suddenly Donald Trump is completely falling apart, and he doesn't like Howard. He dropped Howard a long time ago. And again, notice how he's working this crowd the same way that like Hulk Hogan worked him back when he was in the NWO. It's the same type of rhetoric. If you'll notice, whenever he's about to run somebody in the ground, he says their name to the crowd, and the crowd starts booing before he even really gets into it. It's also very Jerry Springer show. You know, the crowd is already turning on the person before he really gets deep in the weeds. And then they sit back and they cheer and they laugh as he roasts this person. And I said to myself, don't any of them have a mind of their own? Couldn't any of them possibly say, well, I kind of like Howard. What's he got against Howard now? You would think that one of them would say that, but they don't. They go right into it. And it's so WWE, because when a WWE wrestler gets out there in the middle of the ring, they'll start off, and it'll be like, my opponent was out here last week, and the crowd starts booing, I've had it with his crap. Next week I'm going to get him, and the crowd, yay, they cheer. It's the same rhetoric. It's the same BS every time. And I say to myself, if I went to a Kamala Harris rally, and let's say I was standing there, and midway through it, she just went off just absolutely shitting on Dan Aykroyd. I mean, let's just say, I love Dan Aykroyd. I'm a huge fan. Love his work. And if she just suddenly went off on him, I'd be going, what Dan Aykroyd do? I wouldn't just automatically start booing. I wouldn't just automatically start, she would have to tell me what it was he did that was so terrible. And then I would make up my mind on my own as to whether or not I still wanted to listen to him or whatever. And there's a good chance that unless he did something over the top, racist or over the top, just bigoted, it would take a lot for me to go, you know what? This politician here doesn't like this celebrity, so I'm going to automatically turn on that celebrity. I don't do that. There are still Republicans out there that makes movies that I watch, and I've not fully tuned them out just because of their political beliefs. But MAGA automatically, just whoever he's running down that day, they go with it. And the reason why that I can't take them seriously as a group of people is because if he'd have started off, you know what, Howard Stern's a true patriot, Howard Stern's a true American, they would have cheered. They would have clapped. Yeah, this Howard Stern, he's a beta male, he's a loser, he's a has-been, I dropped him a long time ago. Have they ever stopped and thought about the fact that all these people that used to love Trump and hang around Trump and have laughs with Trump and sit around and shoot the shit with him, these people are now turning on him once they saw him for what he really was? How many people have you heard say, including Howard Stern, people like Dave Chappelle, so many different people have said, that ain't the same guy I used to know. He's not the same anymore. He's definitely changed. He's become this power-hungry dude that, craves being a dictator. How many times have we heard this stuff get said by people who knew him well, and the minute they speak out against him, oh, I dropped them a long time ago. They're a has-been now. They're a loser now. You shouldn't watch their show anymore. And, if anybody out there was coming up in the world with a podcast, and they did like him or lean toward him, then it would be in their best interest to just go ahead and say, oh, I love him so much. And then he would put your show over. But if you step out of line with him, that's the whole kicker. The minute you step out of line, he's got the crowd trained to start booing immediately. And that's why we call it a cult. That's why we say this is very cult-like, because you can't speak out against the leader at all. And you can't even interview the leader's opponent without him running you in the ground for simply interviewing your opponent. It's so over-the-top ridiculous that this is where we're at with Trump and with MAGA. That they go out to his events, and before they even know why he's mad at somebody, they're mad right along with him. And it is nothing but doom and gloom, and Trump absolutely does run this country down every chance he gets. And I probably can't play the one clip I saw of him on a podcast, because a lot of times with the podcast you get into copyright issues. But I saw him talking about how America's not a great country right now. The podcaster actually interrupted him to say, well, it is a great country. It's always been a great country. And he goes, no, that's where I disagree with you there. So to everyone that says that he doesn't run down the country, yes, he does. Every time he gets in front of a microphone, he absolutely runs us in the ground. He thinks it can only be great if he's the one leading it. And anybody that speaks out against him or even entertains the idea of talking to his opponents, he wants them all ran in the ground. And there'll be people out there hollering for Howard Stern now to be canceled. And I'm like, really? Out of all the things Howard Stern said and did, out of all the boundaries he pushed, out of all the boundaries he broke, now MAGA wants to turn on him? And you really think that we can take you seriously? Now you want to turn on Howard Stern? Now, after everything he's said and done? Now suddenly this is a line too far. He spoke against your leader. You loved Howard Stern when he was sitting there laughing with Trump about what a piece of ass Ivanka is. What does that tell us about you as people if you were laughing at that and you were still on board? But now that he interviewed Kamala, that's just a line too far. That's just a line too far. Howard Stern used to have shows where he asked everybody about their personal sex life. He had shows where he literally had listeners winning a date with a porn star. I mean, this guy has done everything. The lady straddled a subwoofer. I mean, I could sit here and go on all day, and then we would probably get banned pretty quick. But I'm just saying, all those lines he crossed. But he entertained the idea of talking to Kamala Harris, and that was a line too far. And all the lines that Trump crossed on the Howard Stern show, none of those were deal breakers, but this is. It just shows how ridiculous that MAGA and Trump truly are. And tomorrow, if Howard Stern said, you know what, I didn't like that interview with Kamala, I don't like her at all, I'm back on the Trump train, Trump would come out and say, let's hear it from my good buddy Howard Stern. I knew he had it in him. I knew he was a good guy. And the crowd will go wild. Just like they do at WWE events, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Listen, I watch the WWE. I watch it with my young sons all the time. We enjoy it. I want the WWE to stay there. That's their brand. That's their product. You guys specialize in that. I don't want it in my politics. I don't want it inspiring people to vote because there's no substance there. There's no real substance. Donald Trump, just like the WWE, is creating phony enemies and phony outrage and getting people worked up over a fight that ain't even real. So anyway, I truly appreciate you guys so much for sticking with me and supporting what it is that I do. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything to do so. We're on the road to 500,000 subscribers here on the channel. I never thought we would make it over 300,000, but we hit 100,000 back in April, late March, early April, and we've already tripled that. So I know we can get to the 500 mark. You guys helped me do that, and I appreciate you so much for tuning in and supporting what it is that I do, and you guys have a great weekend.